Thank you. So now at this time, we ask you to please mute your mics for the best sound experience. Otherwise, feedback could interfere with the information we'll be sharing with you today. So without further ado, here is Ms. Helga Carrion, and I'm going to go ahead and put up her PowerPoint for her.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy that you were able to join us today. And just a little bit about myself. I am the coordinator for the health professions and related sciences, and I am a nutrition professor. I am by trade a dietitian, and I've been practicing for over 30 years. And so, I, love nutrition, love that we can help others feel better and perform better, etc., through diet. And so anyway, today we're talking about a very, very important topic, which is mental health. And as you know, this has become even more relevant in the past year with this pandemic. And so we, have seen a rise in mental health issues in people all over the world. And specifically, I'm going to be focusing, this information is good for anyone, but focusing on students and some of the issues that college students experience. And we're going to spend a little bit of time of talking about those nutrition changes that you can make that will hopefully help you feel better. So we're going to go ahead and move through this. And I want to say that if you all have questions in between, feel free to type them in the chat or raise your hand, and I will be monitoring that, and so we can stop and answer those questions. Not a problem. Okay, so couple of things. What we're going to be looking at, as I mentioned, just the prevalence of mental health issues in college students and, of course, adults in general. We'll also look at the link between mental health and the effect on student performance. And we'll look at that link between nutrition, mental health, and then finally, I'm going to end with a lot of recommendations for you all, which I hope are going to be of benefit to you. So let me see if this will, it's not, here we go. So, as I mentioned previously, we are experiencing a mental health crisis in this country. And as I said before as well, a lot of it has to do with the pandemic. However, we already had a crisis in the country pre-pandemic. And so we can start by looking at, I want to share or ask you all, and maybe you can just raise your hands, how many of you have been directly or indirectly affected by a mental health issue? And keep in mind that when we talk about this, people are sometimes not very comfortable sharing. They think there has been a stigma related to mental health issues. But we're talking about things like depression, anxiety, and I can tell you from personal experience, my mother, and she's 89 years old, and she has been dealing with anxiety all her life. A lot of issues when she was younger, and it still persists. And so, this is real. And what's important is that, I'm so glad that we have an opportunity to talk about it at EPCC. We need to help remove the stigma behind this, and we need to provide people with resources. What can you do? You don't have to suffer in silence. And so you see some of these other issues, depression, anxiety, there's PTSD, there's bipolar disorder, there's borderline personality disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders, and schizophrenia. And there are more, of course, but these are the most commonly ones. And so if you do, are suffering from one of these, know that you are not alone. And I'm having trouble. There we go. You're not alone. People of all walks of life, all ages, are experiencing these mental health issues. So let's talk about it then. We're going to be open and share information. And even though this is being recorded, keep in mind that if you share something personal, just remember that it is being recorded. So hopefully that won't deter you, because we need to be open about it. So what is the prevalence of mental illness in the U.S.? 1 in 5 people, this is adults, are experiencing mental health each year. Well, that's, a lot of people. We're talking millions, 47.6 million people in the U.S. 1 in 25 people experiences serious mental illness that incapacitates them. And we're still talking about a lot of people, 11.4 million. Then we look at young adults. How prevalent is this in young adults? We're talking 1 in 4. That's 25%. That means that if you're in a group of 4 people, one of you more than likely is experiencing one of these issues. And if we look at even younger people, we're talking youth 6 to 17, we're talking 1 in 6. And again, look at this number, 7.7 million people in the US. In general, 50% of all lifetime mental illness, this is amazing, begins by age 14, and 75% by age 24. So many of you are somewhere in between there. And so it's very likely that many of us will be affected. So I wanted to look specifically at the prevalence. Oops, this has kind of got a lapse here. Here we go. I wanted to look specifically at college age students and some of the statistics. First of all, more than 25% college students have been diagnosed and treated by a professional within the last year. More than 11% of college students have been diagnosed and treated for anxiety specifically in the past year. 10% have been diagnosed with depression. More than 80% felt overwhelmed by all they had to do in the past year. And, this is just for college students. That's not counting those of us that are, faculty and staff. This is something that affects all of us. More than 60% of young adults who drop out of college do so because of a mental health related reason. And so I'm just very grateful that those of you that are present, that are students, so glad that you're still with us and that you're, moving forward. And all I want to say is, there is help. You don't have to do this alone. 45% have felt that things were hopeless. And this is a statistic that just gets to me, is the fact that suicide is the second leading cause of death among college students and people aged 10 to 34. Let's see, there is a question about, we can stop recording if we need to. I'm okay with it. I just don't know if anybody that might want to share personal things, if they're okay with it. Just be aware and maybe save, if you don't want to share with everybody and be recorded, maybe you can wait until the end and we can stop recording at the end and do some Q&A. Okay, so that'll work. Thank you. Okay, so some of the challenges that college students are facing. One of them is just a difficulty connecting with other students and making friends. And obviously during this pandemic, when we're all at home, the majority of us are working from home, this becomes a bigger challenge. And this is a challenge for my mother. She used to go to an adult daycare center, and so she had company, she had made friends. And for this past year, her anxiety has increased exponentially. She's had to get more help, and this is happening to people of all ages. How about trouble sleeping? I don't know how many of you have been experiencing some trouble sleeping, and when we think about this, sleep is related, to so many things. If you're worrying about, money, you're worrying about a job, you're worrying about, school, you're worrying about your children, you're worrying about all of this, of course, it's going to affect your sleep. And, by the same token, the less you sleep or the more difficulty you have sleeping, that's going to lead to fatigue. We all know we don't sleep well, we don't feel good the next day. And challenges with concentration. This is a big one for those of you that are taking classes. And then we also see that there's this lack of motivation, which is, of course, going to lead to poor performance. And as an instructor, let me tell you that part of my job is keeping students engaged in their classes. We're all online, and, it's very easy for someone that's already experiencing mental health issues, anxiety, depression, whatever it may be, to focus, to stay engaged. And so, we're receiving a lot of training of how we can help all of you. So, poor eating habits. And, I know that I asked my students in my nutrition class, we talk about how, poor eating habits have actually gotten worse during this time. It used to be when we were at work or when we're at school, maybe we weren't eating as often, even though, some people are, going to the vending machines and buying fast food, etc. But it's actually gotten worse during this time. And that leads to increased depression and anxiety. So it's this vicious cycle, which we can start affecting through our diets. There's difficulty coping with stress, which leads to withdrawal and self-medication with drugs and alcohol. We've read the statistics of the increase in use of alcohol and drugs during this time. Nervousness about participating in class leads to avoidance. And that's interesting because online, I find that a lot more students that normally would not participate in the classroom do so because I'm engaging them. I include discussion boards where I get involved with the students. We have discussions, and I found that this has been really, really helpful. And of course, unpredictable changes in mood, which impact our relationships and friendships. So lots of things going on, and we're going to see how we can help. Now, the current medical model for treating mental health issues has typically been medications first, psychotherapy second, and then the rest. The rest is, diet, exercise, sleep, etc. And so I ask, do you think that medications have been effective in treating mental health issues? That's not to say, my mom's needed some medication, that's fine, but it's been complementary. It's been, we're trying to treat the person, the whole person, not just simply saying, okay, you've got an issue, here's some medication. We have to look at short-term versus long-term effectiveness of medications. And we know there are negative effects of these psychiatric drugs. We know that there's an increase in the risk of suicide. We know that there can be physical and mental damage, especially long term. And then there's this other list of side effects that we've heard about, right? People getting psychotic, having hallucinations, becoming suicidal, even having strokes. And so you've got to weigh in and decide whether medication is right for you. And these were some alarming facts that I found about the violent side effects of antipsychotic medications. Look at this, and I know this is kind of small, but in 1 year, they found there were 8,219 cases of aggression as a result of these medications. Okay, so we do need to look at this. Is there a way to at least decrease the amount of medication that people take? It is very scary. And so my job, of course, is to say, hey, is there a different way? Are there some other options for treating mental health issues? Do we have to start with meds? And of course, I'm not going to say that diet is more important than psychotherapy, but I'm saying that we can work together and probably have we can be more effective in helping people. So there's psychotherapy, and there's something, I don't know if you all are familiar with CBT. That's cognitive behavioral therapy. And so with this, you're talking about changing the way you talk to yourself, changing the way you view things. And it's also coming up with behavioral treatment for your issues. Right now, my mother sees a therapist, and this therapist has been able to, have her sit down. We keep track of the days when she's experiencing the anxiety. We track the days that she's doing really well. We've given her a variety of tools that she can use when she's experiencing the anxiety, and this is what we're talking about. And secondary, of course, is the lifestyle changes. And in particular, we're going to be talking about diet. So many people ask, is there a link between mental health and nutrition? And just, by the fact that we are talking about this, obviously, the research is indicating that there is. And trust me, for any of you that might be interested, there is tons of research from reliable sources that can give you more or increase your knowledge in this area. So I want us to start. We're going to talk about diet, of course. This was all kind of an introduction to get you motivated, when we see that there really is a problem and that it's something that many people share, then we can then say, what are we going to do? And so I started with a review of what we're doing. And it's interesting that we call the Standard American Diet, the acronym is SAD. And it is very sad. Our American diet is, leaves a lot to be desired. First of all, if you see here that 3 of 4 Americans don't eat any fruit in a given day. Tell me, you all, raise your hands if you have not had any fruit today. And it's okay, we're not judging. Okay, the numbers are going up. No fruit today. And so quite a few of you. Next, look at this. Nearly 9 of 10 Americans doesn't meet the recommendation for vegetables. How many of you are getting 3 to 5 servings of vegetables every day? Raise your hands if you are not getting your servings of vegetables every day. And I can tell you, you know, the majority of people, and through the years, I've worked with patients in private practice, and, you know, these are the two biggest issues. People aren't eating fruit. They probably eat more fruit than they do veggies, right? And one of the ways that I personally work with this is, one, if I make a smoothie in the morning, I throw vegetables in there. It's like, okay, get it done, get it in there. And the second thing I do is I try to eat a salad every day. So, you know, that's just standard. I've gotten into the habit. Otherwise, I won't get my veggies. And that's one of the problems, you know, my mother has. She doesn't eat fruit and she doesn't eat veggies. So 99% of Americans don't eat a minimum of whole grains. And so with the whole movement of keto diets and low carb diets, people have been staying away from grains. And, you know, my recommendation is always, you know, if it's whole, the less processed it is, you know, the better it's going to be for you. And we're talking whole grains. So it can be a whole grain cereal, it can be a whole grain rice, it can be a whole grain bread. And of course, it's not, let's see, tons of it. It's, can we get that whole grain? And what do whole grains give us? They give us a whole list of vitamins and minerals, but very important, we get fiber from it, because guess what? The next one, only 11% of Americans are getting enough fiber. No surprises there. And that's why the sales of all of these, you know, Metamucil and all of these bulking agents, enemas, etc., that people are using, because we're not getting enough fiber. Okay, next one is only 5% of Americans. I mean, and this is, you know, related to the standard American diet, right? Are getting enough potassium. And you go, huh, why are we talking about potassium? Guess where potassium is found? Fresh fruits and vegetables. Yes, lemons count, by the way, just saw that. Majority of Americans are deficient. Look at all these vitamins and calcium and iron, okay? And what are we getting? Guess what? Lots of sugar, lots of saturated fat, and lots of sodium. Okay, so this is the current state of Americans' diet. What are the long-term effects? You can imagine, and I won't go into a lot of detail, but basically saying we increase our risk for everything when we're eating this American diet. There's a lot of information, and I'm very, very interested personally on gut health. The more I read about how important the gut microbiome, these are the little guys that live in your intestines. And guess what? The majority of our other body systems are supported by the gut and this microbiome. So anyway, we can see how, you know, these ultra-processed foods are linked to increased risk of mental health disorders. So, yes, kombucha. Now, I didn't like it, but my neighbor makes it for me, and I've been drinking it, so I've done better there. Okay, so can nutrition deficiencies result in an increase in mental health problems? I think that you can guess. We're saying that this is definitely the case. And let me tell you, for any of you that are interested, this is such a cool field. It's called nutritional psychiatry. There's been, you know, growth in this area, and basically there's a focus on what you eat, how it makes you feel, because what we eat affects our moods, doesn't it? You know, directly. Let's not even say what it's going to do to you long term, but, you know, can we tell the difference when we eat healthy and when we eat not so healthy? What effect does it have on our behavior? And also the kinds of bacteria that live in our gut. So that is all covered in this area called nutritional psychiatry. So How does your diet impact mental health? And ladies, if we can watch this video, it's only like a little over 3 minutes.
In our morning rounds, the emerging science on how food affects your mood. Government figures show more than 16 million American adults report having a major episode of depression in the past year. Women are affected more often than men. A new field of study, nutritional psychiatry, looks at how diet improve mental health. It could help patients shift from pharmaceuticals to food-based therapies. Our Dr. Tara Narula is here. Good morning.
Good morning, Nora.
I could talk about this forever. I'm so fascinated by this subject. So just broadly speaking, what is nutritional psychiatry?
Well, it's the idea that maybe a psychiatrist should be asking you what was on your dinner plate last night. What did you eat for lunch? The idea that food plays an essential role in our mental health in the same way that we think about it playing a role in cardiovascular disease, in our blood sugar management, in our gastrointestinal health. John LaPook just did Sunday morning. We talked about its effects on cancer. So it's something that we don't often think about. But there has been recent research in this emerging field in the last 5 years that shows that healthier dietary patterns can reduce the risk of things like depression and anxiety.
And what's the connection?
So the brain is a highly metabolic organ. It uses a lot of energy, a lot of nutrients. It's always on. And it depends on fuel, but not just any fuel, like a car. You want to give it expensive, high quality fuel. That means foods that have the right nutrients, the right vitamins, the right sources of protein, because these form the building blocks for the neurotransmitters in the brain, for the cellular structure of the brain, for the enzymes in the brain.
All I know is a cheeseburger always puts me in a really good mood, and I know that I know you're not talking about that kind of food, unfortunately.
No, we're not.
So when you talk about healthy kind of food, other than the usual, the greens and the legumes and the avocados, what are, I like those too. What are the unexpected things that people might not think about that you think you should try?
That's a mood booster.
That's a mood booster.
There are healthy dietary patterns. For instance, the Mediterranean diet that's been studied and shown to reduce risk of depression. But there's also specific nutrients and vitamins, things like the B vitamins, omega-3s, iron, zinc, folate, magnesium, choline. These are some other things that people can think about. Probiotics, prebiotics. And the idea is that when you eat these foods, essentially many of them can become the basis for the brain chemicals, the neurotransmitters. So serotonin, for instance, one of the main neurotransmitters in the brain, 90% of it is produced in the gastrointestinal tract. In addition, the fruits and vegetables that you eat give you antioxidants. These can be anti-inflammatory. It can boost your immune system when you get the right vitamins. So there's a lot of ways or potential pathways that these.
And there's a lot of connection too, as you're just getting to, I can tell, it's the microbiome, gut bacteria, how important gut bacteria is. And one of the, I try and eat yogurt every morning. What are the other things that help your gut bacteria improve it?
Fermented foods, so sauerkraut, kimchi, probiotics, prebiotics, things like Brussels sprouts, onions, garlic. These things can essentially boost your body's own natural bacteria. But yes, the gut bacteria, they work as a defense layer, preventing the flow of bad toxins across that layer that can potentially get into the blood and be pro-inflammatory. They also work to help the communication in the neurons between the gut and the brain.
So can I just ask real quick, is there somebody out there now, a doctor, if you gave them your diet, they could look at everything that's in there?
There are nutritional psychiatrists, yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Okay, you lost me at sauerkraut, but I came back with Brussels sprouts.
You can
Thank you, Dr. Tara.
and you can put avocado on a cheeseburger.
Yes, you can. I've done that.
Yeah, it's good.
I've seen it at Chef Jeff's.
Okay, so that gives you an idea what we're talking about, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail. I don't know if you can stop sharing this. Thank you. Okay, so in general, let's start with some general recommendations that have been made for improving mental health, okay? So there are some dietary patterns that are recommended, and we're going to look at those. The Mediterranean diet. I don't know if any of you heard of the Mediterranean diet. And then there's another diet called the DASH diet. Okay, so the next general recommendation is that we need to eat more fruits, veggies, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. Okay, all of these foods have been found to help improve mental health issues. Consuming a higher amount of foods that are rich in omega-3s. We'll talk about omega-3s. Replacing unhealthy food with wholesome, nutritious foods. Limiting your intake of processed foods, fast foods, commercial baked goods, and sweets. And being mindful of probiotic gut bacteria. And Patricia, you asked about DASH. Yeah, it's a dietary approaches for stopping hypertension. And so it is low sodium, so it's very rich in natural whole foods. Absolutely. And so let's look at these in a little bit more detail here. Here we go. So this is the Mediterranean diet. And if you look at the picture of the foods there, think of what is eaten in the countries around the Mediterranean. It's a lot of seafood, but it's a lot of fresh fruits, fresh veggies. And I included a little list here, and of course it's tiny, but you guys can take a picture of it maybe if you're interested, and that way you can zoom in a little bit. I'm not going to try to zoom it because it may mess up things. But basically, what's included, you see that the fats that are included, olive oil, all the olives, lots of veggies, right? Nuts and seeds. There's all of them are wonderful and are included here. Lots of herbs and spices, your beans and legumes, and of course we love beans in this area. And even though I'm Puerto Rican, we eat a lot of beans, except we call them habichuelas instead of frijoles. And so there are cheeses, believe it or not, fermented dairy. Look at this whole list of fruits, and here's your seafood. And so if you're going to be consuming beef, pork, etc., they're talking about grass-fed varieties. Okay, so this is a Mediterranean diet, and that looks a little different than what's on most people's plates on a daily basis, right? But we can start making changes slowly. It's setting some goals and making what you eat a priority. Here's the DASH diet, and you see that a lot of the same foods are included here. Same kinds of things. So we're talking about whole grains and fruits and veggies, low-fat dairy, limiting sugar and saturated fat, and of course, salt. Why is coffee part of a diet? Well, actually, there have been some studies that link coffee consumption, or caffeine, I should say, to some mental health. However, we know that too much caffeine, we know it's a stimulant, too much caffeine can have a negative effect. And of course, yes, without cream and sugar, though, absolutely. So when we talk about omega-3 fatty acids, here's a list. You can take a picture of this slide. How many of you eat flaxseed? I buy flaxseed, and you know what? I sprinkle it on my salad. I sprinkle it on, I put it in the smoothie. Some of you are responding that you eat flaxseed. And it doesn't taste bad. It's just kind of a nutty flavor, and you don't have to put tons of it. If you sprinkle it on different foods, you'll get your serving of omega-3s through flaxseed. Yes, some eggs have omega-3 added to it. Fish and salmon specifically, I've made it a habit to include salmon at least once a week. And all I do is get a pan and spray it, add just a little bit of olive oil and heat it up and just pan grill it, or you can grill it or just cook it on your pan. Lots of different ways to prepare salmon. Tofu, I'll eat it if it's in Chinese food. I've tried it. And if you buy the extra firm tofu, you can cut it up and throw it in with veggies, and most people don't even notice it. So here are some others. Avocados, my favorite. If there are the foods that I include on a daily basis regularly, and we're going to talk about green tea every morning. I include avocados every day. I add the flax seeds every day. I am now eating chia seeds more often, and I have nuts every day. Oh, and the other is blueberries. So those are kind of part of my daily diet, and I've just, gotten into the habit of doing this. Um, the next slide is we talked about, and you heard in that video clip about the importance of the gut-brain connection. And so we'll talk a little bit. Here is a list also of probiotics. I'm sure you've all heard of this. And probiotics mostly are the fermented foods, and that's where someone mentioned the kombucha, kimchi, which I will not eat. I've tried kefir or kefir, however you pronounce it. My neighbor makes that too, and I cannot stomach it. But hey, I have my kombucha every day. I'll eat yogurt. Some people have done the apple cider vinegar on a daily basis, and that's just, taking, and I would say dilute it a little bit in water because it's pretty strong. But that's a probiotic as well. And then on the right here, the image over here is the prebiotics. And people ask me all the time, what is the difference between a prebiotic and a probiotic? The probiotic foods have the bacteria. This is, the healthy bacteria that we want to put into our gut. We want to have those. The prebiotic is the food for that bacteria to stay healthy and alive. And so it's things that are naturally high in fiber. So if you're already consuming, the onions and the garlic and, some of the other veggies, some of the fruits, especially the berries, then you're going to be doing well. Sauerkraut, not going to get me to do a whole lot of sauerkraut. Someone says, yes, the expense. Well, and some of these, especially probiotics, you can make them yourself. I tell you, my neighbor does it for me. Thank God I don't have to do it. But you can make them yourself. And with the prebiotics, the onions and garlic, include them on a regular basis. Is warm lemon water good for you? Well, lemons are good. It's rich in vitamin C. It's got a lot of other good, vitamins and minerals. Some people have been talking about drinking warm lemon water to kill COVID. And let me be clear about that. There is no documentation, there's no research that lemon or lemon water or any specific food will kill COVID. But is it a good thing? Absolutely. I love lemon. In fact, I have my, whatever drink I have, I always have some fresh lemon in it. I love the flavor it gives. Plus, I know I'm adding some nutrients. It's good stuff. Okay, moving along here. So we've already, talked about how important your gut health is. When your gut is in what dysbiosis basically means, out of balance, your brain and the nervous system is affected. And I think she mentioned here, I don't know how many of you've heard of serotonin, and that's the feel-good neurotransmitter. 90 to 95% of serotonin is made in the gut, not in the brain. So we want to find ways to increase serotonin, especially for those of you that experience anxiety or depression. These are some of the effects. If you don't get enough serotonin, you will have all of these types of experiences, right? So here's a list, and this is how we can increase serotonin. There are foods that are rich in tryptophan. Tryptophan is an amino acid, okay? Proteins are made of amino acids, the building block. So tryptophan is one of those, and it's needed for the production of serotonin. And so if you eat these foods on a regular basis, you're going to help increase the production of serotonin. You're going to feel better. So we've got that salmon again, and poultry, eggs, milk. People talk about, and serotonin actually helps people sleep well. It gives you that relaxed feeling. And you hear people drinking warm milk before going to bed, and that's why, because milk has tryptophan. But you'll also find in spinach, nuts, seeds, and some soy products. Now, there are other things, and this is what I emphasize to my mother, is that we can increase serotonin levels naturally through physical activity, and so I've got her walking. I have a lady, a group that provide companions, and she comes, several times a week and takes her walking, even walking at the mall, whatever. The other is getting plenty of sunlight, and this is important. We have plenty of sun in El Paso. That's one of the beautiful things about El Paso. And so get outside, sit outside, even if it's cool, just, but make sure you have some area that is exposed to the sunlight, because you can always also make vitamin D, which is so important for mental health. Okay, drinking adequate water. Yes, the Sun City. Drinking adequate water daily. We don't drink enough water, and that's another issue my mother has. She's so cute. She's got her water bottle. She hates plain water, so she's adding, something to give it flavor, which is fine. But she carries with her, but I never see her drinking. I tell her, that's great. You've got to open the bottle and actually drink something. And finally, of course, serotonin can be increased just through prayer meditation, okay? Which is part of my daily life meditation. I meditate on a daily basis every morning. And so the next couple of slides, and you may want to take pictures because I'm not going to go into details here, but what I've given you is specific nutrients and their relationship to mental health, and then I give you the food sources so you know where you can get these vitamins, etc. And so these are all B vitamins. You'll see that in the majority of them are related to depression, anxiety, confusion, poor memory, and here are food sources. Most of them are, if you're eating, a Mediterranean diet, for instance, you're going to get, most of this. You're not going to have a problem. And the question that a lot of people have for me is, do I need to be taking a vitamin supplement? It depends. It shouldn't be an excuse for eating poorly and say, I'm going to eat poorly, but as long as I pop a vitamin supplement or a mineral supplement, I'm good to go. It doesn't work that way. But if you suspect a deficiency, you should go to your doctor and tell them that you would like to have some blood work done, and you can check. Yes, that a lot of them have been added, and they're called enriched and fortified foods. Cereals are the most notorious ones. You look on the label and it's like, oh my God, I'm getting all of these, especially the B vitamins. The next slide, if you want to take a picture. We've got some other nutrients. We've got vitamin C, vitamin D, very much linked to depression. So please make note of this. Get the sunlight and include some foods with a vitamin D. And if needed, take a vitamin D supplement. I take vitamin D supplement. I do have a vitamin D deficiency, and so this is the only way that, in addition to diet and sunlight, that I'm able to get my vitamin D within normal ranges. So the question is, are gummy vitamins okay? You just have to be careful. I know it's usually the gummies are produced for children because they're more likely to take their vitamins that way. But you might want to look at the label because of the sugar. Yeah. I've taken them on occasion, but I try not to, but it's up to you. Check it out. Here's some other magnesium you might want to look at. Magnesium has been linked even to sleep. And so here you go, insomnia. So make sure you're getting plenty of magnesium. Your omega-3s, geez. I'm making sure on a daily basis I get my omega-3s. We've got to be careful and watch our iron and zinc levels as well. Okay. Yes, the gummies are yummy. And if it's the only way you'll take your vitamins, go for it. Okay. But my as a dietitian, of course, I am not about promoting supplements. I am about promoting food, right? And so if we can, let's get all of our nutrients. We can get the majority of them. There are some nutrients that where it's difficult to get your nutrients from food. However, for the most part, and a multivitamin is probably fine for most people. Just read the label, make sure it doesn't have more than 100% of the nutrients. Because remember, you're still getting nutrients from the foods you do eat. Okay. Here I wanted to include, some phytonutrients. I don't know if you guys do any turmeric or turmeric, however you want to pronounce it. It's got curcumin. It's a natural antidepressant. I use it. I sprinkle it on my food. You find it in like your Indian foods. And I'll sprinkle it, not too much because it has a strong flavor. And some people take it in supplement form. The green tea I do every single day, first thing in the morning. Phytonutrients, that means nutrients found in plant foods. Phyto means from plant foods, okay? There's the cruciferous vegetables, and those cruciferous vegetables are those like cabbage and Brussels sprouts, broccoli. All of those are cruciferous, and they help with depression. Guess what? There's dark chocolate for all you chocolate lovers out there. And let me add, in moderation, some, not a whole big bar, not 5 times a day. There you go, Patricia. Get your dark chocolate. It'll make you happy. In addition, you see, it can help reduce your stress and alleviate some of that depression. So here's that caffeine that I was talking about that's found in coffee, tea. Of course, it's found in sodas, but I am not going to promote sodas. But they have apparently protective against depression for some people. We've got to be careful because in some people it has an opposite effect. Okay, and I want to then kind of summarize this. I know we've come to the end of our time. In a nutshell, so these are recommendations. Eat real food. Okay, let's stay away from the processed foods. Eat colorful fruits and veggies. Decrease your consumption of sugar, added sugars especially. Consume slow carbs. Those are the whole grains. And I'm not promoting no carbs. Instead, it's eat the right kinds of carbs. Consume good quality protein. Get your omega-3s, good fat. Get those avocados in there and your nuts and seeds. And in some cases, nutrient supplements may be necessary. And so let's see here as a summary. There is a ton of evidence that there's a relationship between diet and mental health. And so we need to take it more seriously. We need to make a priority and realize that diet is important to psychiatry as it is to other types of, other systems, whether it's the heart or endocrinology, etc. And so I want to leave you with one last, thought, and that is, could there be a new paradigm for treating mental health issues? Could we begin with lifestyle, diet, exercise, supplements if needed? And from there, complement that, of course, with your behavioral therapy, stress reduction, and finally, if needed, we can complement with meds. And that's, the proposal of many people in the field, many of the nutritional psychologists, are recommending that we need to look at this differently. And we have a quote here from Thomas Edison, of all people. In 1903, he said, "The doctor of the future will no longer treat the human frame with drugs, but rather will cure and prevent disease with nutrition." And so I hope that you've gotten an idea of the importance of, making some in the way we eat. Let's be more mindful of what we're putting into our precious body. This is what we've got, and we need to take care of it. And we have in our hands, a method, the tools to get healthy. Absolutely. Let food be thy medicine. Thank you. And let's get healthy. I agree. So, if there are any questions, this might be a good thing. You're very welcome, Martha. I hope this is a benefit for you, and I hope maybe it'll inspire you. And I know that we hear a lot of presentations and we get excited, and then, later on in the day or the next day, we're back to our usual. And I just say, you know what? Just work at one thing at a time. Pick one of these and say, okay, I'm going to start adding, if you like avocados, I'm going to make sure that I get avocados often. The tamales are too compelling. No one said you couldn't have tamales. We're just saying add the other stuff. What if we approach this as not about taking away things? How about if we say, let's add the good things? And little by little, I think you're going to feel better, and you're just going to naturally start consuming the others, decreasing the amount of those foods that we consume. I think that is more reasonable. I always believe in a middle way. Extremes are not good. And so enjoy your tamal. Absolutely. Any questions? Any other questions, everybody? Anybody?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there you go. Great idea. Make your tamales with black beans and corn. Yeah, that's a good one. And you add turmeric to your chicharrones. There you go. You're getting creative. Absolutely. So thank you all for joining me today and taking the time to do this, to, I don't know, open our minds a little bit, right? It's about being open to change.
Thank you, Ms. Carrion. I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone when I thought was engaged the entire time. That was a fantastic presentation. If I want to thank Ms. Carrion, why don't y'all put some emoji applause into the chat?
Well, I was going to add that you can feel free to share the PowerPoint if someone wants it. I have no problem with that, and it's about spreading the word, sharing it with others. Thank you all. Have a good one.
This recording will be put onto the Blackboard institution page once it's ready, and you'll be able to view it again. Yes, I want to view it again myself. It was so good.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Ms. Carrion, for being a fantastic presenter. At this time, I would like to encourage everyone to download the OLA PDF guide. The link is in the chat. It has all your online links. You'll be able to click that link, download it to your computer, and then open it up, and you can see all the online services available to you. I'd like to point out at the top of the page, you can see Student Success Online Tutoring Center is open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to midnight with friendly, trained tutors ready to welcome and help you. Come on in on your own or bring a friend or friends, and we'll tutor you together. Let me get that link out there for you. I'd also like to point out, right underneath it is the Tutor Finder link. Also, if you need a specific course or you want to know the schedule of a particular tutor, You can get that link and you sign in with your EPCC credentials. And from there, you can either select the course that you need or view all tutors to see their courses. Next, I'm going to share with you is the Tejano Passport. Okay, there we go. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and put that link for the Tejano Passports in the chat. There we are, copy. And I'm putting it in chat for you right now. There we go. That is for today's session. We'd like to invite you to participate in Tejano Passports. You join us here each week for Tejano virtual events, and we'll give you a code at the end of the session that you can use towards your own free medallion. If you're already participating, the code's in the chat. If not, not too late to join. This code will still be good later for when you sign up. It will be valid until midnight tonight. If you need more information, there is a page on it. Let me go ahead and get that link for you as well. Copy. And then that way you can read more about it. And then also, I would like to show you where the other Blackboard recordings are. So let me go ahead and share my application screen real quick. All right, there we go. A little bit tunnel vision there. If you go to the Blackboard institution page, as you can see here, when you click on Blackboard from the My EPCC page, it opens the institution page. You scroll down a little ways, we're about in the middle, and you can see all the online recordings from last semester. We will be updating it soon with this semester's recordings. But you click right there in your browser, there's nothing to download or anything like that, and you'll be able to see those recordings. Next, I'm going to share with you is our events for next week, for actually Friday, I'm sorry. There we go. So we would like to invite you for our Friday TVEs. We have degrees and careers Friday from 1 to 1:50. And then also this Friday, we have a new event that we're starting, which is Happy Math Hour workshops for Math 1314 and Math 1324. However, the topics that they cover in here will probably help you with any math course you have, so we strongly recommend you attend. We'd like to thank you all for coming today, and again to Ms. Carrion for presenting. Thank you for being a wonderful audience, and we hope to see you again soon. Does anyone have any questions?
No, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Patricia. That was great.